Seth Lugo is supposed to pitch for the Kansas City Royals against the Chicago Cubs on Wednesday's 120 matinee. But could, after the game, Seth Lugo just end up staying in Chicago with the Cubs? We'll see. Plus, the Chicago Cubs do get another dub, their 60th of the season. We got to talk about it all, especially the masterclass put on by Matthew Boyd. But first, that intro. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. Hey, I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you love the Chicago Cubs, I need you to go ahead and do me a favor, hit that like button. If you want to see the Chicago Cubs win the World Series this year, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to catch every single thing we got going on here on Chicago Cubs Central, I need you to do me a favor and hit that bell so that you get notifications notifying you every single time an episode drops from the Chicago Cubs Central podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Now, with that being said, the Chicago Cubs go ahead and beat the Kansas City Royals, redeeming their game from yesterday where they lost to the Kansas City Royals 12-4, this time 6-0, and it's no surprise. It's not even a question. Who was the leader that led the Chicago Cubs to this victory? Well, I'll just tell you. It was that man, Matthew Boyd. That's right. Matthew Boyd pitched 7 shutout innings for the Chicago Cubs on, I believe it was 93 pitches. It took him, 63 of those being strikes. He allowed just 4 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. His ERA is 2.20. This guy is pitching himself right into that Cy Young conversation because not only does he have the wins to prove that he's been dominant, but his ERA looks great. His strikeouts look great. And the fact that basically the Cubs are winning every single time he comes to the mound and pitches. He is able to hold teams to under 2 runs in pretty much every one of his starts outside of 2 this season. Matthew Boyd's record as a Cub is now 11-3. 11-3 on the season. The man pitched phenomenal. And you know what? Shout out to Rich Hill, former Chicago Cub himself. Rich Hill actually pitched a pretty good game. It was just 0-2 when Rich Hill was in the game. And had it not been for a couple of bloop errors made by the Kansas City Royals outfield, this might have been a 0-0 game when Rich Hill exited. I mean, he pitched his ass off. He was by no means a slouch. You did not see regression from him at age 45. This man did what he had to do and pitched his ass off, man. Rich Hill, it was actually pretty cool to watch him do work in the game yesterday. So yeah, man, Rich Hill, kudos to him. But of course, your pick to perform player of the game has to be Matthew Boyd, who is etching his name into the Cy Young conversation. You guys got to start talking about him. The national media has to start talking about him. He's been flying under the radar. He is by far the sneakiest, best signing that the Chicago Cubs made this offseason. That's right. I said signing, not necessarily trade. They traded for Kyle Tucker. He's the best signing that Jed Hoyer did in the offseason. You have gotten more bang for your buck from him than from Carson Kelly, than from Colin Ray, than from everybody. I'm inclined to believe that this was this signing alone could actually end up getting Jed Hoyer the Executive of the Year award for the Chicago Cubs because of just how dominant this man has looked. Now, Manager of the Year, that's a different story for Craig Counsell. We'll have to see about that. There's some pretty good managers out there. You got to look at Detroit's manager. You got to look at Milwaukee's manager, maybe repeating. I mean, you just don't know. But we'll just have to see what happens with that. But the Chicago Cubs do go ahead and take care of business and rack up their 60th win of the season. And y'all, what do we do on this channel every single time the Chicago Cubs win? That's right, baby. We fly the W right here on Chicago Cubs Central every single time the Chicago Cubs win a baseball game. We fly the W, support our team. Go Cubs, go. This one was a great win for the Chicago Cubs, their 60th win of the season. Man, we're rolling, man. Like I said, 19 games above 500. Gonna try to go to 20, back to 20 games above 500. In tomorrow's matinee matchup, Wednesday's matinee matchup against the Kansas City Royals. Who we're supposed to be having Seth Lugo pitch against us in that game, but there has been much speculation that the Chicago Cubs might actually look at trading for Seth Lugo. What does Seth Lugo bring to the table? Seth Lugo has a 6-5 record. I think a lot of that has to do with run support, so don't pay attention to that. But let's look at his ERA. He has a 2.94 ERA, a 1.09 whip. He has pitched 107 innings in this season so far. The guy has been a workhorse for Kansas City, just being able to offer them a good, strong arm. He's a right-handed pitcher that comes in and just gives you everything that he has. Now, tomorrow, Wednesday's game against the Chicago Cubs against the Kansas City Royals, it's going to be a 90-degree day, hot and humid in the middle of the day. That ball's going to be flying out of Wrigley. So with that being said, we have on our side Colin Ray, who has an 8-3 record with a 3.80 ERA, a 1.28 whip, and he has pitched 97 innings in this season. But like I said, for me, the home run ball is going to come into play tomorrow. So it's important that whatever happens, the Chicago Cubs keep the ball in the park. You're going to have to keep the ball in the park. And for Colin Ray, it's going to be about throwing strikes. It's going to be about using his manipulating the baseball as well as manipulating the strike zone to get out. That's going to be the most important part to ensure a 61st victory for the Chicago Cubs. They have an off day Thursday, and then they begin a 3-game set over on the south side with the white hot Chicago White Sox, man. I'm telling you, the white hot Chicago White Sox that are not playing any games right now. This team, since the All-Star break, has been on a mission to prove that they are better than people are giving them credit for. And I give them credit for doing what they've done so far. It is not easy to do what the Chicago White Sox have done. But with that being said, we still got to worry about what's in front of us, and that's nabbing another series victory, this time against the Kansas City Royals. Colin Ray, we've already talked about, he has to keep the ball. In the ballpark. Don't give up too many home runs. Again, you would like to see Kyle Tucker come through and show up. We had a scary moment in Tuesday's game where Kyle Tucker actually fouled a ball off his knee. And like I said, he looked to be in some serious pain, dropped down onto his face on that one, holding his knee in pain. He did stay in the game and finish the game. So he might be a scratch for tomorrow. We'll have to see about that. He might play, he might not. You might end up seeing, Justin Turner DH and Seiya Suzuki play in right field for Kyle Tucker. We'll just have to see what happens with that. Or Kyle Tucker might just DH and you put Seiya Suzuki out there in right field for defense. But I'm very curious to see if the Chicago Cubs are going to make a deal for a Seth Lugo. That is literally one of that is literally one of the talking points going around the league right now. And of course, you have to talk about Edward Cabrera. There were Cubs scouts in Miami today for right-handed pitcher Edward Cabrera start. And we're thinking that a possible trade could potentially occur in the next few days if trade talks go as planned. So you're looking at potentially adding Edward Cabrera to this Chicago Cubs lineup pitching rotation here within the next few days. So let's take a look in and peer in at what Edward Cabrera did tonight for the Miami Marlins. The Chicago Cubs do not want to go into that Brewer series, I believe, without a starting pitcher. So you're looking at Cabrera probably getting his first start in that series. In today's game, Miami actually beat the Padres. In this game, Edward Cabrera did get his 4th win of the season. In this game, Edward Cabrera pitched 5 2/3 of innings. He allowed 5 hits, just 1 earned run, 0 walks, 6 strikeouts on 86 pitches, 56 of those being strikes, and a 3.48 ERA. Tell me, guys, do you want Edward Cabrera? What do you think about Seth Lugo? These are both names that I brought up to you before, but as we are nearing towards the trade deadline, and now the Cubs are getting serious about just who exactly they're pinpointing and showing you who they want to be a part of this team, what are your thoughts? Who do you think the Chicago Cubs should target, and who do you think will end up on this team? I can almost guarantee you guys that by the time that Brewers series starts, we will at least have one new pitcher to go up against the Brewers. You will not see another bullpen game versus the Brewers. I can promise you that. But yeah, comment below, guys. Let me know your thoughts below on Edward Cabrera. Like I said, I'm very interested to see what comes of it and see if the Chicago Cubs make a deal and exactly who they're willing to trade for Edward Cabrera. And then, of course, also Seth Lugo potentially joining the Chicago Cubs after he faces them in Wednesday's matinee matchup. We will have to see what happens. But of course, I need you guys to stay locked in with me throughout this whole crazy trade deadline period. We're going to have a blast. I actually have a fun episode planned with Big Kev, who also will be taking over Chicago Cubs Central. You guys will not see me for a week. Probably maybe a little bit longer. I'm actually going to give birth. My wife is going to give birth to our son coming up here soon. So I'm going to take a break to be a dad for a bit. And Big Kev is going to hold you down with this channel and provide you with all the quality Cubs content. But trade deadline, I'm planning a big episode. Hopefully for that, we can do something exciting, something extraordinary for the trade deadline while we wait to see what deals come through for the Chicago Cubs. And of course, I want all of you to tune in every day to the Chicago Cubs Central. Please, guys, I appreciate each and every last one of you. Make sure you share with your friends, your family. Let them know Chicago Cubs Central is the #1 spot for all things Chicago Cubs. And, hey, you can leave a voicemail to 217-816-5498 or write me at cubsbaseball1992@gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I appreciate each and every last one of you.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.